Hey everyone, and welcome to Book Lovers Unite. Today we are diving into an absolute giant in the world of personal development, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. You've probably seen this book everywhere, and for good reason. We're about to find out exactly why it's considered such a classic.
So let me just start by asking you a question. Straight up, are you a leader? Now before you answer, hold on a second, because this has nothing to do with your job title or whether you have a corner office. Maxwell's core idea might just completely change how you see yourself.
And there it is. That's the big idea right there. Leadership is influence, period. According to Maxwell, if you have influence with literally anyone, your kids, a friend, a coworker, then congratulations, you are a leader. So the real question isn't if you lead, it's how well you lead. And that's where these laws get so incredibly powerful.
Okay, we have to start with law number 1. You could argue this is the most important concept in the entire book. It's called the law of the lid, and I want you to think of it as the absolute ceiling on your own potential.
Here's how Maxwell breaks it down, and it really makes it click. Imagine everything is on a scale from 1 to 10. If your leadership ability is, say, a 4, your overall effectiveness can never be higher than a 3. Just think about that for a second. You could be the smartest person in the room, the hardest worker, but your own leadership skill puts a hard cap, a lid, on everything you and your team can possibly achieve.
And this is the part that can be a little tough to swallow. If your organization is stuck, if your family isn't thriving, if your project just can't seem to get off the ground, the first place to look isn't at everybody else. The limiting factor is the leader. You are the lid on their potential.
But here's the really amazing news, the thing that makes this whole idea so empowering. Leadership isn't some magical trait you're born with. No, it's a collection of skills. And what does that mean? It means you can always learn, you can always grow, and you can always raise your own lid. And when you do that, you give everyone around you more room to grow too.
So the big question becomes, how do we do that? How do we actually raise the lid? Well, Maxwell gives us 20 more laws to work with. But for now, let's just focus on 2 that gives us a really powerful place to start.
This brings us to a huge one, the law of navigation. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly explains the difference between just managing and truly leading. See, a manager can handle the day-to-day stuff. They can steer the ship. But a leader sees where you're going. They see the storms and the icebergs ahead, and they chart the entire course before you even leave the harbor. Maxwell uses this dramatic real-life story about the race to the South Pole to hammer this home. You had Scott, a really hard worker, but just a terrible navigator. He didn't plan for things to go wrong, and tragically, he and his entire team died. On the other hand, you had Amundsen. He was a master navigator. He planned every single detail. He anticipated the dangers, and his team not only got there first, but they all came back safely. One just steered, the other navigated. But you know what? Even the best navigator on the planet is completely useless if nobody on the crew trusts them enough to follow their map. And that brings us to the absolute bedrock of it all, trust. Maxwell calls this the law of solid ground. You can be brilliant, you can be talented, you can be charming as all get out. That kind of competence might even land you a leadership role. But if people don't fundamentally trust your character, deep down, they're not going to follow you for long, especially not when the going gets tough. I love the way Maxwell explains this. He uses this simple but really powerful metaphor of having pocket change. Every time you make a good call, every time you put the team first or admit a mistake, it's like you're putting some change in your pocket. You're building up trust. But every time you break a promise or act selfishly, you lose some of that change. And if you run out of change, well, your ability to lead is gone. It doesn't matter what your business card said. Okay, so this all brings us to the end game, right? The long-term goal of leadership. Because it's not just about what you get done while you're in charge. It's about what happens long after you've moved on. It's all about your legacy. And this is the law of legacy. Man, this one hits hard. It basically says that if you build something amazing, but it all falls apart the second you leave, you weren't actually a great leader. Your real, lasting value is measured by how well the people who come after you succeed. This just completely shifts the whole goal of leadership, doesn't it? Your job isn't to gather up a bunch of followers who depend on you for everything. No, your job is to empower other people, to develop them into leaders themselves who can carry the mission forward without you. And this really ties everything together, you see. A true legacy is built by leaders who are constantly working to raise their own lid, so they have the capacity to help others raise theirs even higher.
So I'll leave you with this question. Just thinking about your own life, right now, which one of these laws feels like the biggest challenge? Or maybe the biggest opportunity for you to grow? Is it about raising your lid, becoming a better navigator, building that solid ground of trust? Or is it about thinking bigger, about your legacy? Whatever your answer is, the biggest takeaway from this book is that leadership is a journey, and it's all about intentional growth. Hey, if you found this breakdown valuable, let's keep the conversation going. Drop your answer to that question in the comments below. Make sure to like this and subscribe to Book Lovers Unite for more reviews just like this one. And hey, share this with someone you know who's on their own leadership journey. Thanks for watching. Now, go raise your lid.